I hope you have a mocktail or a cocktail in hand, and I invite you to sit back and relax at home. I am Jennifer Moran, and I welcome you all to the annual Leadership Evanston Alumni Celebration. I have the honor and privilege to work alongside Charlotta Copani to help curate the Evanston signature program, Leadership Evanston. We are never tired of the surprises, the connections, the struggles, and the joy that we find each year as we develop as a cohort. This year was particularly challenging, as we all know. We are grateful to this 29th cohort who, despite everything, continued to engage and contribute. This cohort will finish in June, a cohort that is dedicated to resiliency and reimagining our community. Tonight, we reflect on what it has been like to be at home for this entire year. It ain't been easy, but here we are. Tonight, we highlight 4 outstanding Leadership Evanston alumni who represent the adaptive leadership we practice in the program. We will hear from each of these amazing individuals and learn what they have been doing, how they responded, and what they have taken away from this year at home. We all have examples of community compassion and creative response that have led to new and lasting relationships. These 4 amazing individuals did not do this by themselves, something they are the first to point out. However, LE alums Dave Davis, Mercedes Fernandez, Jill Swirsky, and Tasha Triplett. They are all shining examples of how leadership can create change. So sit back at home and let's listen to their journey in their own words.
Hi, my name is Jill Swirsky. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Engagement Services Manager at the Evanston Public Library.
My name is Tasha Triplett, and I am the Director of Programming for Books and Breakfast.
I'm Mercedes Fernandez from Latinos en Evanston North Shore Lens. Soy Mercedes Fernandez de Latinos en Evanston North Shore Lens.
My name is Dave Davis, and I serve as the university's Executive Director for Neighborhood and Community Relations. And in this role, I serve as the university's primary liaison to the Evanston community.
The work that I do involves growing ongoing and sustainable relationships with community residents, organizations, for-profit and not-for-profit businesses that help the library fulfill our mission to be a boundary-spanning organization that helps people reach their aspirations.
And we are a nonprofit organization that provided healthy meal and homework help to students in need of additional support before the pandemic. During remote learning, we have been supporting District 65 students online in a virtual space to do homework completion, lots of reading, and connection with them.
I am the founder and executive director of Latinos in Evanston North Shore Lens. Since we are a relatively new and growing organization, I do a bit of everything: planning, administration, event management, and fundraising, marketing and social media management, internal training, coaching, and community outreach, among other tasks. Soy la fundadora y directora ejecutiva de Latinos en Evanston North Shore. Y ya que somos una agrupación relativamente pequeña y en crecimiento, hago un poco de todo, desde planificar, administrar, manejar eventos y recaudaciones de fondos, manejo de las redes sociales, entrenamiento interno y también alcance comunitario, entre otras tareas.
Try to create these sort of mutually beneficial partnerships between the university and our community partners, partnerships that really allow each other to support our shared goals and our missions, and that are really centered on reciprocity. When I say reciprocity, I simply mean a mutual exchange of value that's rooted in trust and mutual respect. Because when we do that right, that's when we have an opportunity to really change systems and transform not only the culture, but transform the Evanston community and support our most vulnerable population.
I feel the most impact that I have made comes from the partnerships that I've built and that the library builds every day. Our job as a profession is to connect people with resources, and I feel that's where I've made the most impact, is just those connections, whether it be through the Evanston Care Network and the creation and partnership around that, or maintaining relationships at residents who live at Over the Rainbow and Hill Apartments. Those types of ongoing relationships, especially during the pandemic, have just been really meaningful.
I feel like I made the most impact this year just by being a parent of students who go to District 65 schools also. It's been really important to stay informed and be on top of everything that is coming out and information that's going back and forth to parents. So being able to get that information, receive it, help interpret for some of our families has been really good for me to be able to guide some of the conversations and to put parents in the right direction of resources that they needed. I also think just being a part of this Books and Breakfast team, being able to offer all of my knowledge of what we would do in person and how that shifts and pivoted for us to provide the same connection and relationship building to students online has been really valuable to our team and the work that we have been doing this school year.
I strongly believe that the biggest impact has been able to bring together Latinx community members through technology that we were not so used to, Zoom. We did workshops on how to use Zoom. In this way, we were able to provide virtual English classes for Spanish speakers, Zumba classes, a book club, and more. Yo creo firmemente que el mayor impacto ha sido el de reunir a los miembros de la comunidad Latinx a través de una tecnología a la cual no estábamos tan acostumbrados, el Zoom. Hicimos talleres en cómo usar Zoom y de esta manera pudimos hacer clases de inglés virtuales para hispanohablantes, clases de Zumba, un club de lectura y mucho más.
I think where I've made the most impact is in a few areas. What I try to do is really leverage the university's resources and intellectual assets. And what I mean are our people, our experts, our students, our faculty members in a way that supports the work of our community partners. In addition to that, I have, a strong network of personal connections. I've had work experience in government, I've been a lobbyist, I've led advocacy groups. And so I think all of those pieced together, they've been incredibly helpful, particularly in leading the nonprofit leaders group. This was a group that was established by Mayor Haggerty last year when the first case of COVID was found in the city of Evanston. And really our original charter was to simply share relevant information about the pandemic and then escalate some of the more critical and urgent matters to the city leadership for resolution. However, this group and our Zoom calls, they quickly evolved to become a space for emotional support and what I call collective healing. As we were all dealing with sort of the shock and the trauma caused by the COVID pandemic. And we also, what happened in this space, we gave each other permission to be completely vulnerable. It just felt incredibly therapeutic, well, at least to me. And so there were numerous times on these calls where my voice started to crack. And I'm not one that typically gets emotional publicly, but within this space, we just, there was so much trust and there was no egos. And we just felt so safe in this space that it was easy for me to open up and just become, and show my vulnerability. And I think that played such a key role in helping us as a collective group make it through some of the most trying times throughout the pandemic.
The most important lessons, that's a hard one. Where to even begin with that this past year? To me, I think really just that sense of take nothing for granted. In personal life, professional life, just take nothing for granted because you never know what's around the corner. And I think it's important to keep that perspective of helping others and walking humbly and acting out of empathy. So all of those things, especially in this extraordinary moment that we all find ourselves in, we're all so deeply impacted. Just take nothing for granted.
I have learned to value life more and to understand that every minute with our loved ones counts. I have also learned that we can cope with difficult life circumstances if we come together as a community, providing and receiving support for each other, organizing, educating, and healing. It reinforced my belief in the power of mutual aid and the strength of grassroots community building. Yo he aprendido a valorar más la vida y entender que cada minuto con nuestros seres queridos cuenta. También he aprendido que podemos sobrellevar las difíciles circunstancias de la vida si nos unimos como comunidad para proveer y para recibir el apoyo uno al otro, organizándonos, educándonos y sanando. Esto ha reforzado mi creencia en que el poder de la ayuda mutua y la fortaleza de la comunidad de base es muy importante.
One of the most important lessons I've learned from this past year is that kids really, truly are resilient. And I think that's something they won't even know until this pandemic is over, or a year from now, or 20 years from now. But the ways that we have seen students bounce up and bounce back and face adversity and challenges of remote learning and everything else that our families are dealing with, it has been quite a good thing to see and quite a lesson for me to see just how much students are adaptable and just how much students are resilient and able to shift and change in the ways that they needed to shift and change to make sure that they are also okay and that they're also successful.
The most important lesson that I learned over this past year was simply the power and importance of community. I mean, obviously that's my role, so that's my lens. I'm deeply involved in community engagement because I understand how important that is. But we are all tasked with a massive obligation to take care of each other in society. I mean, there's just simply no way around it. We have to support and take care of each other. And throughout our history, at least American history, there's been this notion of rugged individualism, which is still somewhat prevalent in American society today. And honestly, my belief is this is literally killing us. I mean, we see it every day across the nation where, there are folks that refuse to just wear masks because they don't understand that we share this society. We take care of each other. If one person isn't supporting another, it could have detrimental effects. And it's only through the bonds of human connection that we learn how to support each other and that we're able to deal with the anxiety and, sometimes, unfortunately, this feeling of hopelessness that's been triggered by this devastating pandemic. That the faith of the Evanston community, as well as more broadly our global community, is really dependent on our ability as a community to take care of each other.
Well, one favorite memory that I have from this past year, we opened a new branch library in the midst of all this, and we opened the Robert Crown Branch Library, then had to immediately shut it. But as we were opening, there was a young boy that came in one of the very early days, and he was probably maybe 8-9 years old, and he came in and he was so the excitement coming into that new space. And if you've not been to the Crown Branch, it's bright and light filled, and it has this kind of bright green theme to it. So it just feels really warm and lovely. And this young boy came in with his mom, and they looked around for a bit and checked out a couple things and then left. And he came back like 4 hours later, and he had his friend with him. And I said, "Oh, "You're back." And he said, "Yes, and I brought my best friend with me." And just to see those two young boys enjoying that library space together, it was really endearing and lovely. And then throughout the pandemic, as we had to close that location and then reopen it, people coming into Crown and expressing their gratitude and their appreciation of the space and the collection, it's been lovely.
It's hard to choose one among so many. In September last year, we hosted a Zumba class at James Park. There were over 35 people, not just from Evanston, but from Skokie and Rogers Park, that attended the event in the middle of the pandemic, wearing their masks and respecting the social distancing. It was amazing to see many people showing so much enthusiasm and happiness. Many cars that passed by Dutch Avenue honked their horns, and many other people stopped by to observe. Through our holiday campaign, A Gift of Love, many people came together to fundraise to provide clothes, food, and toys to 2 Latina families in Evanston and Rogers Park. Es un poco difícil de escoger un evento entre los muchos que hemos organizado. En septiembre del año pasado, organizamos una clase de Zumba en el Parque James en Evanston. Hubo más de 35 personas, no solamente de Evanston, sino también de Skokie y de Rogers Park, que asistieron a este evento en medio de una pandemia, pero usando sus mascarillas y respetando el distanciamiento social. Fue maravilloso ver a la gente mostrando su entusiasmo y su alegría. Muchos carros pasaban por la avenida Dodge y tocaban las bocinas, y otras personas se paraban a mirar lo que estábamos haciendo. También tuvimos otro evento que se llamó Campaña de un Regalo de Amor, por la cual muchas personas nos unimos para juntar comida, para juntar juguetes y regalos para 2 familias latinas de Evanston y de Rogers Park.
One of the best moments for me this year was actually our very first virtual call for our students back in October of 2020. Again, just to see that kids still want to do this, it's actually a big ask. It's not just getting up to go to school every morning. We're asking them to join us in an off time when they're probably very fatigued of being on Zoom. So to see the number of students that came and continue to come and participate in our programming has been one of the biggest surprises, I think, for me as well. And just, again, such a joy and a pleasure to be able to do what we do every single day. Just giving a little glimmer of hope and joy and love and connection for students has been really such a great time for us this year. And it almost surprises me every single day when we hop on here, even now in April, where we have 7 weeks left to go in school, to see that there's still many kids who want to be here, and many kids who want to stay connected to the work that we're doing and stay connected to each other in the same way.
Yeah. I thought about this, and so, recently I was able to hug my father again for the first time in almost a year. People that are close to me and some of the folks that are on some of these calls, they know that my dad has Alzheimer's, and the past year has really taken a toll on his health. And, recently he was able to get vaccinated, and recently my wife and I were vaccinated, and we promised that we would have dinner together with my mom and my dad as soon as we were able to. And so, that happened recently, and I was able to just hug him, and it was such a refreshing feeling. I felt like I didn't want to let go in that moment, because a year had gone by And I didn't realize the importance and power of just a touch and being able to, take this time. And although, I'm not sure if he really understood that I was there and, that I was squeezing him probably a little bit too hard. But it meant so much to me, and what it really did, it helped to clarify and solidify the reason why we do this work. Because we're literally trying to keep people alive so that they can have these moments and these opportunities to share again with their loved ones. Like I've had the opportunity to do. And, we've lost nearly 600,000 people across the nation, and God bless every single one of their families and what they're going through. And, I feel fortunate that I was able to, spend that time again and share that moment with my loved ones, which I've taken for granted for so many years, just to be in the same space, just to share a meal, just to touch, just to reconnect with my loved ones. And, that's something that that moment meant so much to me, because it was a clarifying moment around what I've invested my life's work to do.
Well, I would say that one thing Leadership Evanston really helped me with in terms of growing into a leadership position at the library was that sense of reaching out, taking the initiative, making the cold call, whether it be to an individual or an organization, and just talk to people, find out what they do, what they need, how the library can help. So that sense of one of the exercises we had to do in Leadership Evanston was that kind of cold call, informational interview. And that is a tool that I use over and over again. That's how the Evanston Care Network started. I reached out to my colleague Audrey Thompson and said, hey, is there anything we should be doing during this pandemic? And there we go. We got the Evanston Care Network. The Evanston Care Network is a partnership between the Evanston Public Library, the City of Evanston's 311 and Community Services Departments, the Evanston Community Foundation, and Amita Health.
During my time in Leadership Evanston, I learned so much from interacting with my classmates and receiving instruction and guidance from the many presenters and speakers. This provided me with the tools to stay calm and think strategically, making it possible to act on my passion for service to our community. For example, during Leadership Evanston, I learned the importance of asking for help and building trust so we can have strong, healthy leadership models. I incorporate that into our leadership approach at Lens, and couldn't ask for a better team of women and collaborators who co-create our agenda and priorities. Durante mi tiempo en Leadership Evanston, aprendí mucho interactuando con mis compañeros de clases y recibiendo instrucción de los muchos presentadores y oradores. Esto me dio a mí las herramientas para mantener la calma y pensar de manera estratégica, haciendo posible que yo pueda realizar mi pasión de servicio por nuestra comunidad. Por ejemplo, durante Leadership Evanston aprendí la importancia de pedir ayuda y de desarrollar confianza, de tal manera que podamos ser modelos fuertes y saludables en lo que respecta al liderazgo. He incorporado dentro de nuestro acercamiento de liderazgo a Lens estos conceptos, y la verdad es que no pude encontrar un mejor equipo de personas y colaboradores con quienes creamos nuestra agenda y nuestras prioridades en Lens.
The thing that I applied probably the most from my Leadership Evanston experiences is just the people power. When we decided to take on the expansion that Books and Breakfast did, going from 5 schools and about 180 students to 11 schools and over 250 students, we knew right away that we were going to need the power of people in order to pull this off. So I still have very good connections with many people that I went to, did Leadership Evanston with, and it has been such a joy to be able to reach out to them and reconnect with them during this pandemic, and tap into them as resources for us to find additional people. We're usually an organization of about 125, 145 volunteers. We're over 400 volunteers right now, and I think that number is absolutely phenomenal. And know for sure that I could not have done that without the great connections, partly due to the great connections that I've had with Leadership Evanston, fellow cohort graduates and alums over this past year. So just very grateful for those connections that I still am able to maintain and utilize in order to continue to grow here in the Evanston community.
And one word I would just say, empathy, and being an empathetic leader. And what I mean is simply understanding the needs of others. In this moment, we're all dealing with so much trauma triggered by the pandemic and our fears and anxiety. It's critical that we as leaders take the time to understand, without any judgment or presumption, another person's experience and feelings. It's not easy, but when done well, it can inspire people to action and foster sort of this deeper trust among people and groups that's so critically important when there's uncertainty and we're trying to figure things out and no one knows what's going to happen. You kind of have to trust the people that you're working with, and to make decisions that can impact large-scale policy or groups or what we do. You have to trust these folks. And as a leader, you have to present yourself in a way where people understand that you're sincere in your actions and that you actually care about people and groups. So empathy, is so critically important because, again, we have to be able to trust one another. I think to truly, harness the power of the collective group, you have to be able to demonstrate empathy in a way that moves people, fosters trust, and you also just have to be able to act with simple compassion.
I think if I reimagine Evanston, a legacy lesson to me would be, as you're building community, it is absolutely critically important to have every voice heard from the get-go as you are building community, so that it is a co-creation and a place, whether it's a community or a library, that fosters a sense of belonging, and not just inclusion, but there's no invitation needed. There's a sense of belonging in community. And to me, to get to that place in Evanston, everyone has to be included in every conversation from the get-go and treated with respect and dignity.
I can imagine a diverse and inclusive community where we all have the right to actively participate in the decisions that affect ourselves and our families. When I say all, I especially refer to those who have been excluded for far too long, like undocumented people, those without internet access or healthcare, etc. A community with social justice, where anti-racism and proposals against discrimination do not remain on paper and in progressive discourses, but are actually applied in all areas of society. I aspire for Latinos in Evanston to have real, meaningful access to education, culture, opportunities, employment, and fair wages, and to occupy a space of respect and recognition of our many contributions to society. Puedo imaginar una comunidad diversa e inclusiva, donde todos tengamos el derecho de participar activamente en las decisiones que nos afectan y que afectan a nuestras familias. Cuando yo digo todos, me refiero especialmente a aquellos que han sido excluidos por mucho tiempo, como las personas indocumentadas, aquellos que no tienen acceso al Internet o a los servicios de salud, etc. Una comunidad con justicia social donde el antirracismo y las propuestas contra la discriminación no se queden en el papel y en los discursos progresivos, pero que realmente pueda aplicarse en todas las áreas de la sociedad. Yo aspiro a que los latinos en Evanston tengan un acceso significativo a la educación, a la cultura, a las oportunidades, al trabajo y a los sueldos justos, y que ocupen un espacio de respeto y de reconocimiento de nuestras muchas contribuciones a la sociedad.
What I see as a legacy lesson, especially thinking about the last year, is togetherness is something that comes to mind. I think the ways that Evanston has responded to um, the pandemic and making sure that our citizens are taken care of has been quite a feat for me, and it's something that has never happened in the time that I've been an Evanston resident in the same way. So I think understanding that through all the differences that we have in this one tiny little town, that we can all come together to work together and be together and stay connected, so that all of our citizens are all right. And that's looked different in many different ways. And also, just quick shout out to Evanston Community Foundation. I think the ways that ECF has ebbed and flowed in order to respond to the pandemic has been amazing in my view. And it makes me proud to say that I'm connected to Evanston Community Foundation in this way through Leadership Evanston. And just understanding and knowing that this is still going, that Leadership Evanston is still going. A new cohort of people in Leadership Evanston who are continuing to build on leadership and make those really, really valuable relationships and connections with other people in the community. Just makes me really proud to continue to do the work that I do in the community, and to continue to stay connected with people in that way. So I think togetherness is one word that definitely comes to mind when I think about the legacy of Evanston in the future.
If I were to reimagine Evanston, I would say that Evanston is only as strong as the weakest among us. And I mean that sincerely. I mean, I'm not the first person to say this or to conceptualize this. So Maya Angelou once said that if it's true that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, isn't it also true that a society is only as healthy as its sickest citizen and only as wealthy as its most deprived? And so here in Evanston, as we struggle every day to do the work of advancing racial equity and ensuring that our most vulnerable population is protected and supported, we have to continue to focus relentlessly on ensuring that the folks that are most challenged, that are dealing with the most difficulties, again, are best supported, and that we are working each day to dismantle these systems of oppression and power, and that we do this in a way that's intentional, that's strategic, and that's hyper-focused on making sure that we can build a system that works for everyone and not just the privileged or the entitled. Again, that's what I see as the legacy moving forward, that everyone in Evanston will take a moment to think deeply about their position of power and how they can best leverage that to help someone who's less fortunate, until we, work towards ultimately the day that we can truly become the beloved community that Dr. King envisioned so many years ago.
What happens next, to me, it's hard to get past vaccines. Vaccines happen next. And then we can, pursue all of the things that we are so hoping to do. The universal broadband. We've seen the impact of the digital divide just exacerbated throughout the course of this pandemic, whether it's school-age kids and families or senior citizens. We got to get to universal broadband. So that's what's next. And then reconnecting, being out in community, You can look for the library out in the book bikes and with our library truck out in the parks this summer, open air spaces, and reconnecting.
We will continue working on the pillars of our organization: education, information, leadership, and development of social awareness. We'll keep prioritizing providing access to the tools that will free our community from the barriers that hold us back and impede our progress, such as language, technology, and lack of access to continuing education for adults. We believe that Latinos in Evanston North Shore fill the empty spaces that the social, economic, and educational structure has allowed, and where these opportunities escape due to unequal social and economical structures. For instance, I have heard comments like, Latinos don't like to read. We have proved that wrong by showing that there is a great passion for learning and reading in community. The Lens Readers Club has 18 people who meet twice a week over Zoom and have together read one book and are currently reading the second one. We will continue breaking down stereotypes and pushing for a better future for ourselves and our community. Vamos a continuar trabajando en los pilares de nuestra organización: educación, información, liderazgo y desarrollo de la conciencia social. Vamos a seguir priorizando el acceso a las herramientas que nos van a liberar de las barreras que atacan a nuestra comunidad y que nos impiden el progreso, como la barrera del idioma, la tecnología y la falta de acceso a una educación continua para los adultos. Creemos que Latinos en Evanston North Shore llena los espacios vacíos que la estructura económica, social y educativa han permitido, y donde estas oportunidades escapan debido a unas estructuras sociales y económicas injustas. Por ejemplo, he escuchado comentarios como que los latinos no les gusta leer, y hemos probado que eso es equívoco, mostrando de que hay una gran pasión para el aprendizaje y la lectura en comunidad. El Club de Lectores de Lens tiene 18 personas que se reúnen 2 veces por semana mediante Zoom y que juntos han leído ya un libro y están leyendo actualmente otro más. Vamos a continuar rompiendo estereotipos y impulsando un mejor futuro para nosotros y para nuestra comunidad.
What happens next? Well, I think that has a lot of answers. I think I would say for me personally to kind of just keep on keeping on in the ways that I've been able to do that. I think I've learned a lot of lessons about myself and a lot of lessons about my family this past year that I hope to continue to grow in. I think for Books and Breakfast, it's kind of almost the same philosophy. Like, we have learned so much about ourselves. And again, just so much about the resilience of children during this time. And, you know, one of our main goals and hopes is that children at the end of this year walk away with pride and understanding how fantastic they are and how much they actually just went through, and that they all made it on the other end. So I hope that that's happening. I think for us as a city and just as a whole, as a world, there's a lot of recovery to do. And I think especially working with students in education, there's a lot of recovery that needs to be done. There's a lot of learning loss that happened over this last 12 months. So there'll be a lot of recuperation for that. But I think if there's one message I could give to everybody is that we'll be fine. I think everybody will be okay. I know that there's a lot of anxiety and anxiousness around whether or not students are where they're supposed to be right now. They will be fine. If you don't hear from anybody else, please hear that from me. Again, our students, children are very, very good at bouncing back, and they can do it. We have seen them do it, and they will continue to do that in the future.
Well, we get to work. You know, we've got a lot of work to do. We haven't defeated COVID, and I do worry about that often because I think that folks are becoming complacent. The weather's getting warmer. You know, there's an eagerness to connect, for folks to, you know, gather together in public. But there are a number of variants out there, and we have to remain vigilant. I say that, and I know folks are tired of hearing me say that in the nonprofit calls, but I'm so serious. As I said earlier, we're literally doing this to save life and to make sure that on the other side of COVID that we can reconnect with our loved ones in a way that, reminds us of what was so truly important to us in life. And most importantly, we have to deal with the cancer of systemic racism, because it continues to threaten the lives and livelihoods of our Black and Brown communities. We have to, again, focus on protecting our most vulnerable communities. And I'm certainly confident that we can do this. But we have to be committed to the work at hand. And so we have to get to work, folks. There's a lot to do, but we have the capacity to do it. Here in Evanston, we're blessed to have such a strong nonprofit community, blessed to have strong leadership in the public sector. Our philanthropic leaders are amazing. And we have this little teeny tiny purple institution that's nearby the lake that has a few smart people and a little bit of money. And I think they can put it to good use to help strengthen the entire Evanston community. So with that said, I look forward to continue to work closely with all of our leaders across every sector in Evanston to make sure that Evanston remains the best place to live, work, learn, and play, and that we're truly advancing equity in a way that protects and empowers our most vulnerable communities. So thank you.
Yeah, all of this, I'm really humbled and honored, and Leadership Evanston is a great opportunity, and I would encourage anyone who has the chance to participate. But I think for me, in my work, it's not individual work. There is work from every corner of this community that goes into what I and what the library do. So thank you for the recognition, and I look forward to seeing you out in the parks this summer.
I'll take this opportunity to thank Leadership Evanston for all what I got and is serving me in my job of leadership in Latinos in Evanston North Shore, especially for the opportunity to meet wonderful people that are making great changes in our society. Estoy muy agradecida con Leadership Evanston por la oportunidad que me ha dado de aprender toda la instrucción que me han dado, pero sobre todo de conocer a personas maravillosas que están haciendo un gran trabajo, y espero que ellos continúen haciendo este trabajo de cambio por una justicia en nuestra comunidad.
Thank you so much to Leadership Evanston and the team at Evanston Community Foundation. I am so humbled and honored to be one of the recipients who you guys are recognizing as a Leadership Evanston alum. And it was such a joy and pleasure and one of the best times of my life, really, in Leadership Evanston. And I'm just really, really grateful for the time that I had, and just thankful for all of your continued support of me and the work that I continue to do as a leader in Evanston.
Yeah, I just want to thank the leadership, the staff, the board of the Evanston Community Foundation for this recognition. I'm honored to be recognized among my peers, folks that I respect so deeply, and the work that that's done by the incredible staff at the Evanston Community Foundation is literally, again, saving lives and making Evanston just a better place to live each and every day. And so I'm humbled to receive this award. I just feel blessed and, I'm fortunate to work alongside so many talented people that continue to make me smarter and better and challenge me each and every day. And so again, thank you all.
Wow. I hope you feel inspired by the 4 honorees. We continue to tell our stories because the key to the future of the world is finding the optimistic stories and letting them be known. Leadership Evanston continues because of the generous time and talent of so many leaders across Evanston who are willing to spend time with us. A moment of appreciation for all the generous leaders who joined us this year. able to open doors and move towards a new and reimagined Evanston, but only with your support. Tonight, we ask you to make a gift to Leadership Evanston. Leadership Evanston has graduated 800 leaders in the last 30 years. Our work is based in establishing relationships that strengthen the fabric of our community. Tonight, we invite you to join us to support this important work. To make a donation to Leadership Evanston, please use the link you see on the screen. Also, please stop by Evanston Rebuilding Warehouse, where the current Leadership Evanston cohort has personalized small houses to reflect their year at home. The exhibit will be open to the public and run through May 28th. For those of you interested, Leadership Evanston will begin accepting applications May 1st, and the new cohort will start in September. 2021, here we are. We know we cannot stay at home and stay comfortable. We will open that front door and emerge into the community to continue to learn the narratives in order to change the narrative. We will get proximate to the challenges. We will get uncomfortable in order to transform ourselves and the community. And above all, on nights like tonight, we preserve hope. We lift up the positive and we celebrate the important work that helps Evanston thrive. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. Let's raise a glass in community, and together, let us all say, Salud! Cheers. We want to especially thank Bond Creative Director LE alum Jennifer Friedrich and her team for the creative spirit, the gentle and calm facilitation, and technical expertise so we could pull this off in the virtual space.